Amanda, so let's start off with, gosh, we've known you forever since you were just a little girl almost. And you've really come a long ways in real estate. Started out with Bamboo Detroit. Now you included Bamboo Royal Oak. We're hoping there'll be a Bamboo Ann Arbor soon, right? Because that's where I live. But tell us a little bit about what Bamboo is, what you do.
Yeah, so Bamboo is a co-working space and a community. We're a home for small businesses and startups. We have about 40,000 square feet between Detroit and, as you mentioned, now Royal Oak. So people can come and set up everything from a virtual office to co-working space or like a small office for their team. And I know a lot of us had to work from home for quite some time during COVID and the pandemic. But now we're seeing a shift towards more flexible hybrid work. So working from home a few days a week, coming in for a team meeting or two, getting out of the house once in a while is one of the trends we're seeing. So yeah, a lot of our members, they're tech startups, they're small businesses. They really want to be a part of a community and have a space to collaborate.
Yeah, let me hit the 3 points. She sent me your notes here. She wants to talk about co-working, which she started off doing, future of work, industry trends happening post-COVID. So, Matt, take it away.
So, yeah, let's talk about the effects of the pandemic on the whole co-working trend. How did you folks survive the pandemic, and what do you see going forward as people start to return back to the office, but still want some of the flexibility of working from home at times?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, our industry definitely got hit pretty hard when everyone was told you had to work from home. Yeah. So short term, a lot of pain there, but long term, I think it's beneficial for co-working because now more companies realize that you can have a flexible setup and don't need to be in an office Monday through Friday. So you're seeing some new trends where bigger teams and corporations are downsizing and coming to co-working spaces. And instead of getting an office for 10, you might get an office for 5, and everyone might rotate in just a day or two a week. So they're still working from home, but have that space to complement getting out of the house a couple days a week or collaborating. I mean, you can still build a team virtually, but there's still something about having those in-person meetings from time to time.
Yeah, let's define co-working. I'm sure that's a term everyone's heard. They may not all understand exactly what it is. What sort of services do you provide to folks that work in one of your 2 facilities?
Yeah, so co-working is like a gym membership model. You pay a monthly fee. You can be month to month, 6 months, 1 year. You can even just drop in for a day and buy a pass, and you just use the space however you need it. For a startup or a tech company, instead of signing a lease for 1, 2, or 5 years, you can just show up and use the space month to month, and everything's included. It's furnished, coffee, tea, conference rooms, so you don't have to invest in the build out. And this is especially important for tech startups, right? They don't know where they're going to be in 3, 4, 5 years, so why sign a long-term lease and invest all that money? And pre-COVID, there still are trends in having that sexy office space. You know, Google and Facebook and all the leading Quicken Loans, like leading tech companies really want that to attract talent. But the interesting thing is now talent values flexibility more. If they're being told you have to go to an office 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, they're not happy generally, is what the trend is now post-COVID. So co-working tends to be this nice meeting point where companies don't have to do something long-term. They don't have to spend a bunch of money up front, and their employees or their team members can still get flexibility and come and go when they need it.
Kind of reminds me when I was working at the Free Press. They always wanted us to be in the office, and I was a reporter. So I said, well, how am I supposed to do my job if I'm sitting in the office all the time? So I was always made that argument that we needed a hybrid kind of thing, and pandemic has actually created that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super interesting for us to just see how everyone's doing things slightly different, but hopefully still with us.
Well, that's especially true in the news business. I know I've had editors that have gone both ways on that over the course of my career. Some of them really want FaceTime in the office, and then I've had other editors tell me, get out of here. You know, the news isn't happening here; it's happening out in the street. How does that apply to tech companies? What do tech companies utilize a space like Bamboo for, and then what do they do when they're not in Bamboo? how would they utilize that time and those opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you think about tech companies, I'll use a tech startup at Bamboo as an example. They had a big team office of 18. I won't say who right now, just because I don't know if they want their name out there, but it's just a general example that a lot of people are doing. So they had an HQ. The team was there every day, almost Monday through Friday. And then they all had to be forced to work from home. Now that founder, instead of just hiring in Michigan, he's able to hire everywhere. So his talent pool just opened up massively. But because he still had that core team in Michigan, there's still a need to get together once in a while. So they created it more like hoteling. They kept their office and they said everybody can come in whenever they want, but you're not going to have a dedicated desk. You're just going to share a desk and bring your laptop in and just work while you're there for the day. And so there's a lot of interesting implications for tech companies and startups who maybe had to compete for talent. Now their talent pool is much wider and much more open, and that could be sometimes more affordable depending on where you're hiring from, and more affordable for people who don't have to relocate to the Valley. There was some trends of some folks moving back to Detroit and Michigan where it's more affordable and their families here, but they can still work for the big tech company in the Valley, right? So I don't know where we're going to land with all the trends and all the change, but I think it's really interesting.
Now, do you have any plans to expand beyond your 2 locations now? Or you don't have to tell us exactly where, because that'll drive up the real estate prices. But are you looking at the possibility of more expansion?
Yeah, eventually we would like to have 1 or 2 more locations in Metro Detroit, but we don't have any hard plans yet. We're still kind of reopening and getting people back in and recovering.
Matt?
All right. So I also see a lot of trends toward living working spaces. And that can also include, things like communal kitchens and shared vehicles and that kind of thing. Where do you see that going? I saw a couple of proposals like that for actually developments in Ann Arbor right before the pandemic. And
Well, there actually is one about, I could hit it with a rock. It's right next to me. It's a combination co-working space hotel, and you're in there for like a week or 2 or 3 or a month, and then you leave. So interesting.
Yeah, I think somewhere like Ann Arbor, that's probably in high demand because rent is so expensive for students and for young professionals.
Absolutely. So is that something that you would be looking into, something similar to that later on, maybe as you iterate forward?
Not for us. We're really focused on helping small businesses, startups, creatives grow their businesses. So we think we've got a good model now, and we're more focused on programming and space.
Okay. Question, Matt?
I'm sorry, I cut out there for a second.
Oh, we were just talking about the hotel co-working thing, and I was asking her if she was going to go in that direction, and she said not. So,
okay, not yet.
Yep.
All right. So what what do you see as the growth industries right now in terms of your client base? I mean, is medical technology hot right now? Is it apps? Is it what's going on out there in the tech world?
Yeah, for our clients, it's all kinds of people, usually tech and creatives and small businesses that anything you can do off your laptop. So no, not medical industry, but just broadly in the Detroit ecosystem, I think we have a really healthy tech startup ecosystem. A lot of our tech startups are still here, or they're thriving and even growing faster during COVID because people are using technology much more in our day-to-day than we were. So that's been great to see. We have a lot of like seed stage companies that are working their way to Series A. And you guys know this. I think Michigan and Metro Detroit's a hotbed for cybersecurity and software, and now mobility with what Ford's doing in Corktown. And so, yeah, I think the good news is it seems like a lot of our startups rode through the pandemic and are still here. And I think we'll see some good success from that in the next few years coming.
Yeah, we just had Trevor Paul on last week, who is the chief mobility officer for the state, and talking about Corktown. And it's coming along a lot faster than I thought. It kind of gave us the 5-year plan of where it would be headed. And the thing now, I mean, down there is getting back to the housing situation. Corktown was never a big area for apartments and things. And now that's exploding in the real estate sector. So that might be actually a good location for you guys to have one, right? But of course, you're pretty close to Corktown anyway with Bamboo Detroit, right?
Yeah, for those listening, we're downtown on Washington Boulevard, and then we're in Royal Oak right on Main Street, right by Starbucks at 3rd and Main. Everybody loves that we're across the street from Starbucks, but there's also a lot of great local coffee shops like the Office Coffee Shop and others nearby too.
Oh.
Yeah, no, what they're doing in Corktown is going to be transformational. It's going to build density and attract a lot more tech and mobility talent, which is going to be really great for us. I mean, we're still an auto state, but we've been diversifying over the last 10 years. And the more we do that, the better I think our ecosystem is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about being attractive and having clients who are in the creative spaces. Where do you see that going, and what part of the creative spaces are you talking about? I know there's been some talk lately. I heard about it last week about perhaps restoring some of the film and video incentives in Michigan.
That would be great. We've had, from time to time, we have filmmakers at Bamboo. A lot of when I think of creatives, designers, social media folks, YouTube people, yeah, all kinds of content creators, photographers. But in the past, I think the film incentives have been attractive, and I would love to see that continue.
Yeah, that was a nice one. What, 42% or some number like that? I know I'm close to that number. So, but Rick Snyder phased that out. He didn't like that one. So, but anyway, so I guess any other trends that you see that are going to maybe benefit y'all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, work from home is probably the biggest one. It's interesting. I always tell our startup founders, you want to be building a product that's a must-have, not a nice-to-have. And during the pandemic, we sort of became a nice-to-have when it came to space, but our community, having events, having a community you could still lean on, was more of a must-have because people felt isolated at home. And when I think of community, I think of the words common unity, put together. We're always looking for common ground with each other. And our community really values diversity and entrepreneurship and doing things differently and innovative. So during the pandemic, we had to do a lot more virtual events. And I think those are still going to be here to stay. You guys are doing it right now. I don't have to drive to a studio. We can just hop on Zoom and have a quality recording. So things like that, I think for us and for our members, virtual events, hybrid events, reaching people virtually is definitely going to be here to stay. We have a new member who's doing some stuff in the metaverse, which I haven't fully gotten the scoop on yet, but I think it's very interesting how we might still keep not just hybrid work, but these hybrid forms in our marketing and in our day-to-day operations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, man, go ahead.
At a co-working space like Bamboo, how do you handle intellectual property, trade secrets, patents, that kind of thing? I mean, do people have to sign non-disclosure agreements for stuff they might stumble upon or overhear or anything, or how do you handle it?
I think that's a good question. Most people who are probably concerned about that have a private office, and members choose to share how they'd like to share. I think we try to foster a more collaborative environment, but it's up to those individuals. We don't share their trade secrets, and typically they don't share theirs if they're not comfortable with that. When we do startup programming, like a pre-accelerator or partner with others, generally we encourage sharing of ideas, and that especially in that early stage, because your idea is still forming. You don't have product market fit. So for earlier stage companies, I think it's actually more important to be less concerned about those things and more focused on finding that product market fit.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. You used to do a lot of events because I used to see the invites come through. And I was curious to know whether you're going to be resuming physical events again. And I think you just addressed that in part there. Yes, we are just getting started on in-person events, and we're very excited, and
hope that we're able to stay that course and that we're hopefully almost through this pandemic. But there is that people do miss connecting in person again, and they're very excited to do that. So anyone listening, you can check out our website. We add events often, mostly for members or for the public. Just read the details, but we'd love to see you.